Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our first multifamily meetup of the year. My name is Anthony Vulin. I'm the owner of the Collective here in West Hollywood, serving all over Southern California. We are so passionate about bringing you up-to-date information regarding multifamily real estate that we've committed ourselves to doing a monthly meetup with different topics every month, making sure that everybody's aware of all the important things that they need to know when they're investing in multifamily meetup in multifamily real estate in LA. So we've been doing this for several years. And we have over 2,000 members of our meetup group now. So we have a lot of you online. Some of you are here. We post all of our videos on YouTube the next day. So if you search the Collective Realty tomorrow, you'll find today's meetup there. Our topic today is one of our most popular topics, Investing 101. And it's all the basics, right? Everything that you really need to know and understand and get clear on and have confidence in if you're an investor in real estate or plan on being an investor. Some of the things Will's going to cover is how to calculate a GRM and a cap rate, and maybe what are some standard cap rates for different parts of LA. You know, what is he seeing through his experience in doing this? So it's a great class. We're really, really glad that you guys are all here to partake in all of this. If you have questions anytime, just raise your hand. We're happy to answer them for you. Feel free to put something in the chat, and then maybe Marshall, you could yell out if there's a question for that. And if you have a question here in the office, we have pretty full office today here too. Just let us know anytime, and we're happy to do that for you. I have been in the real estate market for 20 years now. Last year, I was president of Greater LA Realtor Association, and real estate's my passion. This office has a mission of creating wealth, creating paths of wealth through real estate. So we really believe that there's many paths and many ways to create wealth in real estate, and multifamily investing is one of the strongest ways to do that. So it's so strong that we've committed to having a monthly meetup, just on that topic. But we're not transactional realtors where we just help people buy and sell. We really want to help you build wealth and create that strategy that's right for you long term. So keep us in mind if you have any needs or questions regarding real estate, or have any friends, send them over to us. Our office is in West Hollywood, but like we said, we serve pretty much all over Southern California. Just a quick little take on the residential market before we get into our multifamily. A little update on that. Last year, interest rates went up quite a bit, right? And we saw them kind of hit a peak of actually around 7%. Since then, they've been coming down. They're almost on average around 6% now, which is much, much better. The activity that we've been seeing in the residential market this year, in the last few weeks, normally it's really, really a slow month for real estate. January is, but this month is not. It was pretty slow November and December. In January, we're seeing open houses become very busy. We're seeing some properties have multiple offers at different price ranges, not just at the lower end or not just at the higher end like it was for a while. They're kind of at different ranges. As long as a property is in good condition and showing well and priced right, it's going to sell really fast. So it's a pretty active market right now. We expect that to keep building through this year. One analogy someone said was, well, it was kind of maybe the market was kind of like COVID, where when COVID first started, everybody kind of froze and everything shut down and was just quiet for a minute. And then until people figured out how to navigate with it. And also when people realized that things aren't changing, and it's going to be around for a while, they got back into regular life and people are getting back into the market. So last year was kind of a shock for a lot of investors and a lot of people, and they kind of slowed down just to wait to see what was going to happen. Everyone was saying, oh, there's going to be a big market crash. If rates go up, prices are going to drop tremendously. And we're just not seeing that happen at all. We actually saw a price increase overall for the year last year, and we expect to see a small price increase this year of 3 to 5%. So inventory is still very low. It's a little bit better now than it was a couple months ago. And typically it grows through the first 6 months of the year. So, options, we hope to have a few more options that are out there, but inventory is still overall very low. Demand is high. A huge percentage of buyers who are in the market are millennials. You know, they're finally overtaking the #1 market share of, as far as generations in purchasing property. And they have a lot of money saved. Some of them are getting help from their parents, from equity that they may have in their home. And that's also pushing demand up, and that'll continue to do that through this year. So we expect demand to continue to be very strong on the residential side, and prices to be flattish, stable, not really any big drops. And, you know, and things to just to kind of become more of a little bit of a normal market. And you know, we'll really see what happens as far as home values and activity. I'm shocked at how busy it already is this year, to be honest. So things may pick up faster than we expect, or they may kind of stay similar like this. So let's see. Yeah, question.
So what one factor do you attribute this activity? If historically January is slow, why all of a sudden? What do you think?
Good question. Yeah, so he was. Mm-hmm. So the question is like, why now in January, if it's historically slow, are we seeing an increase in demand and activity? I think it's pent up demand. I think that's the #1 answer. It's the demand was cut in half last year, pretty much. And things were so slow that now everyone who was waiting and on the sidelines, some of those people are coming back now, plus new people are, and it's a bump. So, you know, if you're waiting for that crash to buy, we don't think it's going to happen. You know, there's no signs that are telling us, especially this month, the data we're seeing, it honestly, it surprises me, but it's pushing it even more in a sense that no, there's not going to be that crash or even any price reduction possibly. So yeah, any other questions on residential side? Okay, awesome. Well, we're so happy to have you guys here. And again, this is recorded and it'll be put on our YouTube page tomorrow. So just search the Collective Realty, and all of our past sessions are there, and we'll keep trying to bring you more information. But I'd like to introduce to you guys Will Tiao. He's our commercial and multifamily director here at the Collective. He also has his own property management company that's extremely successful. He's also an investor himself. So, I mean, if you're going to work with someone or trust someone, you know, someone who's has skin in the game is somebody who I trust, and Will is that person. So I'm super excited for him to be partners with me on these meetups, and to be able to be our featured speaker today to talk to us about all of the basics of investing in multifamily. So Will, welcome, and congrats on 2,000 members. That's awesome.
I know. Hey, everybody. So we have what, 39 online? I don't know, how many do we have here? 15 or so. So welcome to the Los Angeles Multifamily Real Estate Networking Group. Gosh, how long have we been doing this, Anthony? Want to say 7 years, 8 years?
Yeah, at least 7 years.
At least 7 years, right? So, I mean, we started off, on Meetup, you know, and I think we start off with a few hundred members. And like Anthony said, we're now at, I think, 2,050 members, which is not bad. And, you know, this is always our most popular meetup of the year. We always do this at the beginning of the year, not only as, you know, for obviously newcomers who are interested. A lot of people's New Year's resolution, right, is like, let's start investing, like let's start getting into real estate, right? So that's why I think a lot of people sign up, but also it's a great refresher for those of us who have been doing this for a minute, right? I mean, just to remind ourselves of like what's going on out there. I mean, one of the things we always try to do in this particular meetup that we do every month is we try to tackle a different subject regarding multifamily investing every month. So that could be 1031 exchanges, that could be rent control, that could be landlord-tenant relations, that could be property management, that could be foreclosures, that could be taxes. I always say that the reason people call us is the 4 T's: tenants, termites, toilets, and taxes. All right, that's why we get our calls. So as Anthony mentioned, my name is Will Tiao. I'm the director of the commercial real estate division here at the Collective Realty. I have a specialty in multifamily and mixed use properties. As he mentioned, I'm a broker. So my primary business is helping my clients buy and sell multifamily properties. I also have a property management company with my wife, Diana, who's also a realtor here at the Collective. And we manage over 200 units throughout the city of Los Angeles, including in different municipalities, not just city of Los Angeles, here in West Hollywood, from Beverly, we call ourselves from Beverly Hills to Boyle Heights and everything in between, you know? So we're pretty familiar with those markets when it comes particularly on the property management side. And then, as Anthony mentioned, we put our money where our mouth is. We are also investors and developers as well. We truly believe that it's important to build and to invest in workforce housing, which we feel like there's a dearth of in the city of Los Angeles. And so we are heavily invested in those areas, and we work with a lot of our clients in those areas. So like I said, today we are going to be going over our favorite course, which is Real Estate Investing 101. So let me share my presentation. Can everybody see that? Online? Can I get a yes?
Yes.
Yes.
We were expecting maybe more people to sit over here too, so.
Yeah. We got it. Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to turn the camera?
Yeah, we'll get it back.
Okay. There we go. Hi, guys.
Okay.
That's fine with me. Okay, I'll move over a little bit. Okay, and you guys online can hear me all right?
Yes,
Awesome.
perfectly.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get started. Of course, it's taking a second to load. Oh, this happened last time as well. Marshall? Sorry, I had a problem with this last time where I couldn't share my Google.
Are you trying to stream it? Is that what
Yeah, I was trying to stream it. Yeah. Oh, well, I sent it to you as a PDF. Do you mind? Can you pull it up, please? Thank you so much. Sorry about that, guys. I did, for those of you online, I did download the flyer. We had two flyers that we've handed out in person here. One is the multifamily cheat sheet. That's pretty much the one that we're going to be using. So you guys might want to download that and take a look at it. And obviously, those of you who are here, you can use the back because I'm going to be asking you to do a little math. Okay. All right. So here we go. Real Estate Investing 101. Let me ask you. Next slide, please. Why should we invest in real estate? What's a good reason to invest in real estate?
Build wealth.
Build wealth. What else?
Passive income.
Passive income. What else?
Tax advantages.
Tax advantages. What else? You can join online too. Anybody can join in. Any other reasons to invest in real estate? None?
Buy equity, have equity.
Have equity.
For fun. It's fun.
It's fun. You're absolutely right.
Building relationships.
Building relationships. Okay. Anything else? Let's go to the next slide. So I have 5 main reasons why I think you should consider investing in real estate, right? So we've already talked about this. One is passive income, right? What is passive income? Passive income is when you go to sleep and you make money. Does anybody not like that? Does anybody have a problem with that? Most people like this, right? They like the idea of passive income, right? Someone said equity appreciation, right? What does that mean? It means that you have an asset that doesn't actually depreciate, i.e. your car, right? Your car is an asset that immediately starts depreciating the minute you drive it off the lot, right? But real estate does the opposite, right? Real estate almost goes up almost the second you buy it. In certain areas, there are obviously exceptions to this, right? One thing I didn't hear about, leverage, right? So say you want to buy $1 million property. right? If you want to buy $1 million in stocks, how much money do you need? You need $1 million to buy $1 million in stocks. If you want to buy $1 million investment property, how much money do you need?
300 grand.
250, 300 grand, 25 to 30% down, right? That's a big difference in terms of, not that you can't do that with stocks or any other types of things, but when you use that type of leverage, you put yourself in a very dangerous situation, as we've seen in the stock market recently, right? But with real estate, it's standard that you use other people's money to invest, okay? Another thing I heard was tax advantages, right? As a shelter, right? Can you use your stocks to shelter any of your your earnings?
Yes.
Not so much, right? It's kind of hard, right? Whereas with real estate, there's the tax code, the way it's built and the way it's written, it's very advantageous for real estate investors, okay? Finally, and this is very specific to real estate, is something called a 1031 exchange. Does anybody know what 1031 exchange is? Anyone?
I mean,
Bueller?
I mean, I know what it is. I don't want to be wrong.
Definitely say it then.
It's complicated, right?
Go ahead. You were saying, sorry to say?
I think it's when you own an investment property, so you can basically kind of leverage, or is it related to what you sell that one to reinvest into something else?
Okay.
based on this one.
So the answer, somebody said that it's the idea is that you sell one and then you reinvest in another. But what's the advantage of that?
No capital gains.
That's correct. Well, it's not no capital gains. It's a deferred capital gain. So let me give you an example. So say that $1 million property, right? You buy it today. And let's say in 3 years, that property is now worth 2 million. Okay. If you sell it and you take the gain, what do you have to pay? Capital gains taxes. Anybody know what the capital gains rate is?
30, 13, I think like 13.
I hear 30.
13,000.
I heard 13.
Federal, so it's like
25 federal, 13 California.
Yeah.
And then you have to combine, right? That's about right. So about 38 to 40% on that $1 million gain, right? So you're paying 380 to 400,000 in taxes. However, if you find another property worth 2 million or more, you don't have to pay that capital gains tax right then. Anyways, it's deferred, okay? And you keep doing it. I personally am in a 1031 exchange going on 3 decades. And that's what happens. If you're in real estate and you invest, you never end. It just keeps going, right? You just keep building the wealth. Okay? Yes.
And I mean, 1031s is something we have now, but it's not guaranteed to always be there. So taking advantage of it is amazing, something to do. The government tried to put a stop to it, right? Like in the last couple of years.
So there were 1031 exchanges in other areas. It used to be like if you had a business, say you had like a rental car business and you wanted to sell your rental car business and buy a bigger rental car business, you used to be able to 1031 that. That's gone as of the 2017 Tax Act. The only 1031 that was kept was real estate. Okay, so that's huge. The fact that real estate's the only industry. And it's because there's so many jobs that are connected to this, right? Such a huge part of the economy when you do this, right? Now, let me ask you, these are the reasons to invest in real estate. What are some reasons not to invest in real estate? What are the cons of investing in real estate?
Your money's in there for a while. It's not liquid like a
It's
stock would be.
okay. That's good. So one answer was your money's illiquid. What else? Huh? Debt. If you look at debt as a bad thing, which some, right? I come from a culture where debt is like considered what? Who uses debt? We all buy cash. Okay. All right. So yeah, that could be seen as a downside. What else? Online, anybody?
Cash poor.
Cash flow, that's a con, you're
No,
saying?
no. Cash poor.
Oh, cash poor. That's so true. I know what you're talking about. I feel your pain. Yes.
Tenants,
What else?
having to deal with tenants.
Tenant, my four T's, right? Tenants, toilets, termites, taxes. Right? Anything else? Okay, I have a good list if you want to go to the next slide. So first, like with real estate, a lot of people I think a lot of people start off with like, oh, I don't really need any money to start in real estate. That's not true. You need to have some capital reserves, okay? When you buy something, you need to put a down payment. When you own something, you better have some reserves, because when that toilet leaks or that sewer backs up or that place needs to be tented for termites, you better have those reserves. So that's part of it. You need to have capital reserves. That's number one. Number two, what you said, illiquid investment, right? It's not like stocks where you can basically, if you need that $1 million, you can just go on the open market and probably sell it right then and there, right? With a house, it's going to take you a second, or an investment property. It's going to take you a minute to get that cash out, right? It doesn't happen like that, okay? The 4 T's, property management, right? This is the big headache. This is the one where we get the most calls. Why people are hesitant to buy investment real estate, because they don't want to deal with the management. Yes, sir.
Did you start with property management? Brokerage? You started with the brokerage?
I did both.
You did both at the same time?
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Okay. What else? Expenses, right? Always keep in mind, this is not a free, this is a business that you're investing in, right? What are those expenses? You've got property taxes, you've got insurance, you've got shared utilities, and you've got ongoing maintenance, right? So you have to have, once again, these reserves to be able to pay for these expenses moving forward, right? And then the final wild card, the fun part, legislation, right? In the city of Los Angeles, you have this lovely thing called rent control, right? It's the first question I get when I get a call for one of my listings. Is this property rent controlled? Generally, the answer is yes, but not always, okay? And we'll get into some of those nuances. But understanding rent control, understanding, eviction moratoriums, understanding how the regulatory environment affects your business. That's regardless of your business, right? Whether you run a coffee shop or you invest in investment property, you need to know your regulations, right? Okay, let's go to the next slide. So how do we figure out what the value of an investment property is? Anybody? Does anybody have an idea? How do you value? How do you figure out, is this a good buy? Does this make sense?
Hi, this is Lisa.
Sorry, go ahead.
The income it produces, right?
The income print produces, that's okay. So that's one potential way. Yes, sorry, you were saying online?
Oh, cap rate, the GRM, price per foot, and price per door.
Okay, so that's what we're going to discuss today, right? How to calculate what she just talked about. What's a cap rate? What's a GRM? What do those numbers even mean? When someone says, oh, this is a 5 cap. Oh, this is a 15 GRM. What does it mean when we talk about that, right? So let's, next slide, please. So the GRM is what I call the down and dirty way of valuing an income property, okay? It's the quickest, easiest way to figure out the value and whether or not this property is worth what they're asking for, okay? And it's a very easy formula. The formula, which you have on your sheet, your cheat sheet, okay, is the price of the property, the list price, what they're asking for, divided by the yearly income, the annual income. This is important. Not the monthly income, but the yearly income. Okay?
The yearly income of the property or of what?
Yes, the yearly income that the property earns. Okay, now I told you I was gonna make you do some math. So get out your pens, get out your calculators, whatever you need to do, okay? Let's run a scenario, okay? Here we go. Next slide, please. Okay, you have a property. It's listed for $1.2 million, okay? The income is $10,000 a month. Let's just say it's a fourplex, okay? 4 units, all 2-bedroom, 1 baths. Let's say they're each getting, just for simplicity, we're saying they each get $2,500 each, right? So you have 4 units, $2,500 each times 4 is what? 10,000, thank you. Okay, what's the yearly income? Right, 10,000 times 12 is 120,000. Now, anyone tell me, what is the GRM on this property?
10, and it's a good one, 10.
10. How did you get that? Next slide. The formula, right? The formula we just talked about. It's the list price, 1.2 million, divided by 120,000. It gives you 10. Now question, if I have a property that's listed at a 10 GRM here in the city of West Hollywood, is this a good buy or bad buy?
Very great, absolutely. Buy it now.
I hear a lot of buys. Anybody else?
If that actually exists, then buy.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay.
I mean, it
What if I
exists
tell-
in middle America, but not here.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I'm from Kansas. Okay. I am from middle America, literally the middle of America. You point to middle America, that's Kansas. Okay. This property's in Kansas, is this something you buy? That's right. Good answer. Anybody know?
What was the answer?
Well, it's a two-parter, right? It's a two-part question. The first question was here. If this property is here in the city of West Hollywood, would you buy it or not? Generally, people said yes. Why do they say yes? Because the average GRM in the city of West Hollywood is 17. Okay, so what does that mean? No, it means that they are severely underpriced. They are severely underpriced. And that means that you can immediately buy it and immediately flip it. Okay, and sell it for a 17 GRM. Can somebody tell me what 17 GRM on this is?
2, 2, I don't know, 2, something like that.
That's 120 times 17.
Yeah, it's 2, 21.
Huh?
Yeah, 240, 2,040,000.
2,040,000.
So somebody basically underpriced this so badly, right? That you're getting it for 50% off. Okay. I'm going to say words that everybody should remember. You make your money on the buy. When you're an investor, the main key is to find something that you can buy for the right price. So that's where you make your money. Okay. Keywords you'll never forget, I promise. Okay. So like I said, if you're in the city of West Hollywood, a GRM average is 17. In Kansas, the average GRM is 8. So what does that mean? It means this is overpriced. This is overpriced in a place like Kansas. Okay, that's why it's important to know what your GRMs are in your area. Okay, that way you know if you're buying correctly or not. All right, let's look at the next type of, so what is the GRM missing? What's the GRM missing in terms of its numbers, right? I said it's a down and dirty way to calculate. What is it missing?
It's missing the net income.
Right.
Working off of the multiple gross.
Exactly. So that's why I say it's a kind of a down and dirty way to look at it, but you're not taking into account any of the expenses.
Will, can I ask a quick question? Where do you find like the average GRM, or it's just kind of like, you know, it like just from being a skilled investor, you would kind of know what the average GRMs are for
It's
different
called
neighborhoods?
research.
Okay.
I'll just be honest. It's called
Okay.
research. You have to be in the
Okay.
market. You have to be looking constantly at what's coming on the market. You have to be looking at those numbers, and you have to be talking to the people who are in this field, right?
Got-
It's like you're constantly feeling out like where are the numbers working, and where do you find those numbers?
Research.
Research, but where do you research?
The MLS, LoopNet, just kind of doing average, like getting statistics from
Yes,
all this stuff.
also looking at rents.
Okay.
Rents are key here, right? You need to know where rents are going in that neighborhood.
Right.
How much is the average 2-bedroom going for? When I say, when I said 2 bedrooms for 2,500, none of you flinched. None of you were like, oh my God, who would pay 2,500 for a 2-bedroom? In Kansas, you would flinch. In Kansas, my average 2-bedroom went for $600. Okay? You need to know your markets. All right, let's go back to cap rates. So let's talk about what a cap rate is, right? So there's a formula just like there is for the GRM. That formula is, next slide, is your net operating income divided by your purchase price. Now, can someone tell me how do you get to your net operating income?
Take your gross rents and you subtract your expenses.
Thank you. Did everybody hear that online?
Was it
Bueller?
after paying your expenses?
Yes, you take your gross income and you subtract out your expenses. And that's
Okay.
how you get your net operating income. So I'm going to use the same exact example that we just used. Okay. Let's say your annual income is 120,000 and your expenses are 50,000. Let me ask you a question. What are those expenses?
Tax, mortgage.
Well, let's exclude mortgage because everybody has a different mortgage, okay? Plus you're only writing off the interest on that mortgage. So, but I did hear tax, I heard, what else?
Tax, utilities,
Insurance,
utilities,
Expenses, maintenance.
water,
utilities,
which we could define as
Gas.
gas, electric, sewer, trash, right? Next slide, please. Oh, and we forgot landscaping. Right? That's roughly what you should consider, right? So on this property, it's 100. So your gross income was 120,000. Your expenses are 50,000. So your net income is 70,000. Okay. Let's use that same price point, 1.2 million. What is the cap rate on this property? You need a calculator for that. I heard 5.8. Do we have anyone else want to jump in?
583.
5.83. Anyone else? Next slide, please. Congratulations, you can all do math. 5.83. Okay, now that's a percent. It's the inverse of what we were looking at with the GRM. Okay, if you looked at it as 0.0583, right? So we're looking at this, and this is a quote unquote more accurate way. Now I say quote unquote, right? Because I know realtors and how often are we looking at these listings and being sure that those expenses are real, right? You want to make sure, you want to confirm what numbers we're looking at. What some realtors will do is they will use the current owner's property tax basis and not the new property tax basis in calculating your cap rate. Okay? So that's why I say quote unquote. You want to make sure that you're calculating the right expenses and the right numbers.
Will, this is Sean. I have a question.
Hey, Sean.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So let's just say that you're doing the cap rate properly. What's
the reason to use the GRM? I've always gravitated towards the cap rate. Why do we need to know much about the GRM? Why is that important?
Because like I just said, you don't know really, you have to dig into those expenses to make sure that you're getting the correct cap rate.
Right, and I'm saying if
Whereas
I know that those numbers
with
are
the income, it's very easy to verify income, right? You just look at your leases, right? If you can confirm your leases, then you can confirm your income. And that's very quick and dirty.
okay,
right?
so it's just simpler to do it that way.
It's just quicker and simpler to do. Like I said, it's down and dirty.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah, well, isn't it just another metric?
It's just another metric.
Just line it up and guidance.
Once again, if I have a 5.83 cap building here in West Hollywood, do you buy it or do you not? Why?
Because cap rates here should be like 3 or 4.
That's correct. The cap rate in West Hollywood is about a 3 or a 4. So if you buy it for 5.83, what are you doing? You're making money on the buy.
And your GRM said the same thing.
Exactly. So it confirms it.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you guys learning something?
Yeah.
This making sense to you? Okay.
You can actually, if you can repeat that one more time as to when you said the cap rate in West Hollywood is usually 3%, and this one is a 5.83%. I'm sorry, how is that better?
How is it better?
Yeah, how is
Because basically you're buying this at a discount, right? If your cap rate's at a 5.83 and the cap rates here are 3 to 4, that means you can turn around and sell this building at a 3 to 4 cap.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's the opposite, like the higher the cap rate,
Right.
the better the lower.
Correct. So I'm sorry, you were saying? Correct. So these are inverse numbers, right? Your GRM, you want it lower for the better deal. For the cap rate, you want it higher. Anybody tell me what the GRM and cap rate is in Santa Monica? Anybody? I heard 20. Anybody else? I'd say 19, 18 to 20, depending on the type of building, right? Cap rates in Santa Monica. I heard 2.5. Anyone else? I feel like an auctioneer. Anyone else? I've seen it down as low as 1. I've seen 1 to 2.5, 1 to 3. Okay. Can anybody tell me what the GRM is in Boyle Heights? What's the average GRM in Boyle Heights? Anybody? 14, I heard. 12, I heard. Anyone else? I think it's in between. It's about a 13. Okay. Anybody know what the average cap rate is in Boyle Heights? 5.2, I hear. It's definitely in the 5s, right? So what does that mean? It means the further west you go towards the ocean, the lower the cap rate, the higher the GRM. The more east you go, someone want to finish my sentence? The lower the GRM, the higher the cap rate. Correct. Okay. All right. Let's move to the next slide, please. So this is something that's specific very much to a Los Angeles area listing when it comes to multifamily. And you will often see 2 rents listed on a listing for per unit, right? One says actual and one says pro forma. Can someone tell me what those mean? Huh? Pro forma is projected. Okay. Market rents. Anyone else? I'm sorry? Actual is what they're getting. Correct, right? The actual rent is what the current owner is collecting today, right? And the pro forma rent is what the listing agent says is market rent. And I put that in quotes, right? Because you have to make sure that the listing agent knows what they're talking about, right? Or you better have a good agent that knows that area and can give you accurate rents in that area.
So when you have rent control, what does it matter what the performance says?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Excellent question. The question here was, if you're under rent control, why does it matter what the pro forma is, right? You can't raise it anyways, right? Right? I'll tell you why. I had a 10-unit listing last year, 8 one-bedrooms, 2 two-bedrooms. The one-bedrooms average, I'm sorry, I should be clear. It was in East Hollywood on Lexington, okay? In that area between Los Feliz and Hollywood, okay? One bedrooms were averaging $600. 2 bedrooms were averaging $1,000. Can anybody tell me what the average 1-bedroom price is in that area? I hear 1,500. I hear 19, I hear over 2,000. Anyone else? I'm going to say with a parking spot, it's going to be 1,800 to 2,000. Okay? Anybody tell me what the average 2-bedroom is? I heard 25. I heard 3. I'm going to say it's in that range, 25 to 3. I like that. Okay? Depending on if you have parking, right? Depending on if you have washer dryer, right? Depending on if you've got hardwood floors. I can go through the list of all the things you need in order to get that rent. Okay? I can break it down for you by dollar. Okay? So the question you asked is, why does it matter? Why it matters is because that's the buy. That's what the investor is looking at. A savvy investor will go into that deal, which is what happened. I had multiple offers on this deal, by the way. Okay. Why would I think the GRM was like a 22. The cap rate was like below a 2. Why would anybody buy this?
How do you get to that rent if you're renting?
If you're a savvy investor and you know how to deal with this.
Can you tell us?
That's another seminar. That's another seminar, but it can be done. And those are the types of buyers that I had multiple offers on. Okay. So let's go to the next slide.
Excuse me, can you say again what the pro forma rent is?
The pro forma is the projected market rent.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So things to think about when you're purchasing multifamily investment properties. So I think the first question you need to ask yourself is, how do you want to hold title? Also known as, who's going to own this baby? Right? Do you want to own it by yourself? Usually the best option, right? And also often the option most people cannot afford, right? Do you want to buy it with your spouse? Do you want to buy it in a trust that you have for your family? Do you want to buy it in a partnership? Do Anthony and I want to go in and buy a duplex together, or a triplex or a fourplex? You know, then I only have to put half down and he only has to put half down, right? Or whatever we decide. He could pay 60, I could pay 40, even better, right? For me. Although he had 60% and I have 40%, right? And that we would do that possibly in a partnership. We have to figure out what that partnership looks like, right? So we could do it as tenants in common, right? Say we buy a duplex and he puts 50% down, I put 50% down as tenants in common. What does that mean? It means that if something happens to Anthony, his portion goes to his heirs. If something happens to me, it goes to my heirs. Doesn't go to Anthony, Anthony's does not come to me. We buy it as tenants in common, okay? Joint tenants, okay? Usually that's done normally with family, it could be done, but it could, let's say Anthony and I bought something as joint tenants. What would that look like? That means if something happened to Anthony, I get his half. Something happens to me, he gets my half, which is why it usually is family, right? Why you have joint tenants, right? Another thing that a lot of people do is put properties into LLCs, right? What does LLC stand for? Limited Liability Corporation. Why would you put it? Why would you put a property in an LLC? Asset protection, limit your liability, right? All the different properties I own are in a different LLC. Why? Because then if a tenant sues on that particular building, they can only go after that building. They can't go after all the other assets. Okay. I'm not an estate planning lawyer. I'm sure there's some on this call maybe, but something you would want to talk to an estate planning lawyer about. Okay. Let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you.
Real quickly, does the LLC have to be in the same city, state that you bought the property? Or can you buy, or can you get an LLC in, like, let's say, Delaware?
The answer is mixed. So I actually own a property that is a Delaware LLC. However, in the state of California, if you want to do business in the state of California through an LLC, you still have to get an LLC here.
Okay.
Okay. So once again, I'm not a lawyer, but I do know a little bit about how these kind of title issues can be held and where you can be hit with tax. Okay. Think about what type of property you're looking for when you're looking at these investment properties, right? I always put it on kind of a spectrum, right? Where maybe the left side is raw land, right? And on the right side is what I would call a turnkey property. What's turnkey? That means you can just go to a property, turn the key, and everything's there, right? It's completely done, right? So, and then there's everything in between, right? There's raw land, there's tear downs, there's fixers, and then there's turnkey, Does anybody know what a triple net property is? Yeah, that's not so much, you don't see it so much in the multifamily space, but you do see it in the commercial space, like what we're in right now.
Means the tenant pays taxes.
Typically, it means that the tenant is responsible for all expenses, including taxes, insurance, etc. I'm sorry, I saw a hand.
I was just gonna say that, sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry. Catch you next time. And then when you're looking at multifamily, you want to think about the type of multifamily, meaning, what does that mean, type? There are two types of multifamily properties. 1 to 4 units, which are called, thank you, residential properties. So that means you could buy up to 4 units and it's still considered residential. What does that mean? You are still under financing governed by residential rules, okay? Which means that it's primarily debt traded by Fannie and Freddie Mac, which means it's somewhat protected by the federal government, okay? So that's up to 4 units. As soon as you hit 5 units, what happens? You become a
Commercial.
Thank you, a commercial property, right? And why? Because that debt is not backed by Fannie or Freddie. Okay, that's all private debt. Okay, and generally speaking, you cannot, unlike in a residential world, which we're all kind of used to, right? I think most people assume, like when you buy your first home, right, your first house, your first condo, you can get a 30-year fixed loan, right? That's a residential loan. That does not exist in commercial. In the commercial world, they always have variable rate loans, okay? The rate may be set for a certain amount of time, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, depending on the type of loan, right? But it always floats after that period. So something to consider. Okay, what's next? Next slide, please, Marshall, thank you. Let's talk about how you're going to finance, right? How are you gonna buy this property? Right? Like I said, I come from a culture that doesn't like debt. So I deal with investors all the time who are like, let's just buy cash. Okay. I personally think that's dumb. That's my personal opinion. And I once had a client who bought like, I don't know, 20 units, 4 or 5 buildings, all cash. And I just shook my head and they're like, what? And I'm like, can I show you something? They're like, sure. So I took one of the buildings, I refinanced and I bought her another building. And she was like, whoa, how'd you do that? I'm like, yeah, because you bought it cash. And I doubled her portfolio from 20 to 40 units. Okay, that's the beauty of leverage, right? Which is the next part, bank financing, right? So certain deals fall under bank financing, certain deals don't fall under bank financing. And so sometimes you need to get private financing, right? There are lenders out there that collect rich people's money or investors' money, and then they lend it to you, usually at a much higher rate than what the bank will give it to you, okay? But it sometimes allows you to facilitate a deal that you would not normally be able to get, right? And then the final way a lot of people do it is through something called syndication. Anybody know what syndication is?
Yep. You pull investors together and buy the deal together.
Correct. Let's say all of us in this room, heck, we can include you guys on Zoom. All right. We all decided to pool our money together and buy a building. That's called a syndication. Okay. Next slide. When you're thinking about purchasing a multifamily investment property, think about what it is you want to get out of it. At the end of the day, right? I think I'm just going to say, I'm going to speak for everyone here, that like the whole point of investing in multifamily, it's not because you really want to be multifamily, it's because you're hoping to get something out of this, right? You're hoping to receive something from this. So what is it that you want? Do you want cash flow? Do you want appreciation? Do you want a quick flip? Are you looking for a long-term hold? Or are you hoping to eventually do a 1031 exchange into something bigger? Those end goals are really important when you're starting to look, because what your end goal will determine what your strategy is in dealing with this property, right?
Quick question.
Yes,
Did you ever go into a long-term hold but had to do a quick flip instead?
absolutely.
Yeah.
It happens. It happens. You go into something, you think you're going to hold it for a while, and someone gives you an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah.
It happens. It happened to my first property. I moved to Los Angeles 20 years ago, 2002, 2003. Oh, 2003 was when I found. Okay. So I was a terrible client. I had two agents. I had one from Beverly Hills to Santa Monica, and I had one from Echo Park to West Hollywood. I scoured the city. I looked at over 200 properties. Okay. At that time, I thought I wanted to be on the west side. You know, I was like, oh, the beach. I like the beach. But I couldn't find anything that made my numbers work on the west side. That made sense for me anyways. So I ended up buying a fourplex over in Los Feliz. Okay. And my goal was just to buy it and hold it. You know, I assumed it was, but this was 2003. Does anybody remember what 2003 was like? That was the beginning of the boom before the crash, right? So 2 years later, we got an offer we literally could not refuse. It made no sense. And we're like, okay, if you're going to spend that money, go ahead. And we did a 1031 exchange out of it.
Oh, you had it for over a year?
I had it for 2 years.
You had it for 2 years?
I had it for 2 years. Okay, so, and I've had the flip. Okay, I've had stuff that I thought I would quickly flip, and I've had to hold because of market conditions or stuff that happened. Every situation can happen. You have to have the end goal in sight, but you also have to obviously be flexible.
Are you going
market
to,
condition changes?
I'm sorry, are you going to be able to talk about, like, let's say the FHA loan, where what happens if one of us wants to live in the building?
Well,
is that not part of this? If it isn't, that's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's more of a lending conversation.
Okay.
I can say that, you know, you can definitely do that, right? A lot of people, we work with a lot of investors who do buy multifamily and then they buy into it. It doesn't just have to be an FHA loan though, right? I mean, that's one way to do it. I had a client who bought a duplex, used an FHA loan, put down 3%, lived in one of the units, rented out the other unit. That's more of a lender question that I don't feel comfortable answering. So, next slide, please.
Can I ask you, Will, really quick? Are you able to do short-term rentals in a multifamily if you live in one of the units?
That is a question totally dependent on where you live.
Oh, if it's the city of LA.
Okay. Then once again, it's a question of what type of property it is. Is it a rent controlled property? Is it under RSO or not?
Okay. Okay, it's rent controlled. Probably not. Huh?
The reason being, if it's an RSO property, meaning it's a rent stabilized ordinance property, the answer is no. Technically.
Got it.
30-day minimum. 30-day minimum.
Got it. Got it. Okay, thank
So
you.
Airbnb would be an option.
Well, Airbnb is a platform, right? So the question is, are you talking about a shorter term rental than 30 days, right? Yeah. If it's a shorter term rental than 30 days, if it's in an RSO property, once again, the answer is no.
Okay.
Which is why you will sometimes see on Airbnb, like there are minimums, right? You must stay here for 30 days or more. That's why, is because it's under.
Can you do 30 days if it's non-owner occupied? Like if you do a minimum 30 days in a non-owner, are you allowed to do that as well?
Yes.
You can. Okay. Okay, very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, Lisa.
Hi,
Okay.
how are you? Hi.
Good. Think about other things to think about when you purchase property. Think about how you want to do management. This is really key, right? The 4 T's, I'll say it again. Tenants, toilets, termites, taxes, right? Are you prepared to deal with them yourself? If you are, great, fantastic. You enjoy that 2 a.m. call, okay? Or do you want to hire an outside property manager? You know, and what does that look like? The majority of our business nowadays is those calls. People who have been self-managing and are now looking for outside management, okay? Next slide, please. Think about what your next step is, okay? How do you start looking for properties? Do you look online? Find off-market listings, right? That's like the crown jewel, right? That's the gold. How do you find stuff that nobody even knows about, right? Work with the right team and learn. Continue to learn, continue to do research, keep coming back, okay? And we're not the only ones, but I think one of the reasons why we're one of the most popular ones is because we honestly just give free advice. I think most of the other meetups are trying to sell you something, right? They're like, oh, I have this multifamily deal, 200 units in Texas and blah, blah, blah. You want to put in 50,000? Great, good for them, good for them. We're not trying to do that here. We like literally just give education and give you guys the tools to be able to learn. And then if we're lucky enough, you will come to us when you're ready to buy or ready to sell. You know, that's what we do. And I would say that we have a particular specialty in off-market listings because we have so many units under our management and under our roof. And so a lot of people come to us looking for stuff that hasn't even hit the market yet, you know? So I'd say that's one of our comparative advantages.
So.
Yes, sir.
Because you manage the property, right?
It could be because we manage the property, or just it could be because we have a upcoming sale. You know, somebody contacts us, you know, and we just know about it before everybody else does. You know, that definitely happens a lot. I think next one. Oh, that's us. That's it.
I can attest, just really quick, I can attest I found it off market through Will and he's great. So this is Lisa, by the way.
And so. Lisa's a realtor.
Yes, and I use Will.
High-end homes, Beverly Hills, West Side. Okay. So those of us who are in the business, a lot of us do invest as well. Because like I said, a lot of us like to put our money where our mouth is. Right? So the floor is open. Questions?
With off market, that's only something that a realtor could give to you. That's the information that only a realtor could give to you, correct?
Not necessarily. I mean, I get calls sometimes from folks who are like, oh, my neighbor's thinking about selling, I'm thinking about buying it, what do you think, blah, blah, blah. That does happen. It's rare, but it does happen.
I'd say that doesn't sound like it happens a lot, but.
No, not so much. Not so much.
Ah, damn.
What is the average price per door in LA?
Ooh, excellent question. The question was, what's the average price per door in LA? And my question back to you is, which part of LA? Yeah. Yeah, it really just depends on the area, right?
Pasadena, Glendale.
Ooh, Pasadena, Glendale, you like nice areas. Okay, those are nice areas. They call that the Tri-City area. Pasadena, Glendale, Burbank. Those are separate cities with their own particular rent control or lack of rent control. Burbank has no rent control. Glendale has a very light rent control. Pasadena just passed a crazy rent control, but that's also under lawsuit. So we'll see if that goes through, you know.
There also a state control.
There is a state. There is a state. Why? AB 1482. Good numbers. Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So, and that applies to all non-rent controlled properties built that weren't built within the last 15 years. And that's a whole nother class that we'll get into. And then price per door in those areas, I'm going to say, I see everything in those areas from about 350. Hey, Ken, where are you? There you are. You're doing a lot in these areas. How much are you seeing per door? 350 to 5. 350 to 5. Just a quick introduction. This is my team. Ken Dennis, who works with me on a lot of my listings and buys, and Mary Allen, who is our lead property manager, also realtor, also works with us on the buy side, has decades worth of property management experience. I call her the tenant whisperer. I think we're just going to do one meetup, just letting her talk about how she whispers to tenants. Okay. Any other questions? Yes. Ooh, good question. The question was, are we interested in working with wholesalers? Does everybody know what a wholesaler is? Can somebody explain what a wholesaler is? Yes, what's a wholesaler?
When you purchase the property and then you kind of sell that assignment. So if I purchased a house for $100,000, I can sell it to you for $110,000 and I'll just get the assignment fee of $10,000.
Right. So the question is, do I work with wholesalers? I think that's an offline conversation.
And I'd like to know too.
Well, we're all welcome to share our information in the chat. This is a networking group. So feel free to share your information.
Would you mind putting up your email again, Will?
Oh, absolutely. And they were in the flyers. Any other questions?
I have a question for you, Will. So I reside in California, and what I've noticed is that a lot of people want to buy outside of California, do deals outside of California because they're saying that it's so high here. Have you experienced that yourself?
Absolutely, yes. We're dealing with, frankly, a lot of multifamily investors who are selling in California and buying out of state. And we're particularly, we have a lot of multifamily investors who are planning to buy out of state because they want to buy something triple net, meaning they don't want to do any management. So, but yes, people are buying out of state. I always say this when you're looking at deals, whether you're here or elsewhere. Once again, it goes back to the question I asked earlier, what's your end goal? If your goal is cash flow, I would say maybe California is not the right place. It's hard to get cash flow in Los Angeles, okay? You want cash flow? Go to Kansas, go to Michigan, go to Arkansas, okay? Flip side, do you want appreciation? Right? Because I'll give you that example that I gave earlier, right? So apples to apples. I started in Kansas with 12 units. I sold those 12 units for that fourplex that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so apples to apples. I sold 12 units in Kansas and I bought 4 units in California, in Los Angeles. 2 years later, I sold those 4 units and I went back to Kansas. Can anybody tell me how many units I was able to buy? I started with 12. I heard 20. I'm sorry, 30, 28,
25.
25. I bought 54 units.
Wow.
I started with 12. I 4.5x in 2 years. Money in Kansas, how much would I have been able to buy? 12 units. And in fact, I was in Kansas back in October. I went to that building and I ran into the owner, the new owner. And I said, it was just totally random. And we started talking. And then I asked him, he had bought the building 3 years ago. I said, can I ask how much you paid for it? He paid less than what I bought it for, what I sold it for, like 18 years ago. Okay, so that's the risk you take. Okay, that's the risk you take when you buy elsewhere. I'm just being honest with you. You can maybe get some cash flow somewhere else, but there's no guarantee you're going to have any appreciation. Whereas here, I can almost guarantee you, unless you do something really dumb, you should be able to get appreciation. Any other questions?
Do you teach a course that deals with out-of-state investing?
I mean, have a course. I don't, and all these principles can be used for whether you're in state or out of state, frankly.
Okay.
Sorry, you were saying?
Everything in California that you own now?
Does everything California what?
Is everything that you own now in California?
No. I still have stuff in Kansas. Yes.
So when you're calculating the total yearly income, is this with the idea that you're doing a long-term, like you have 100% occupancy rate, because you're calculating like every 12 months. So let's say if you're trying to do like midterm rentals, you might not always have 100% occupancy rate.
Correct.
You can also rent it more because it's going to be furnished. Do you still use that same formula as far as like calculating, or is it a little different?
That's an excellent question. So the question, if I can synopsize it, is that do you always use the full amount of the income when you're looking at evaluating a property? That's my understanding, correct? And I would say that when you're talking to lenders, for sure they're not, right? Generally, lenders are going to put a vacancy factor in there. Usually it's around 5%, but every lender is slightly different and it depends on the market, right? Once again, going back to my example in Kansas, right? Like was not uncommon for us in Kansas to be 20 or 30% vacant. Can you imagine being 20 to 30% vacant here? No, and that's why we appreciate. That's why we appreciate, because there's a dearth of housing in California, particularly in Los Angeles. And so that's why vacancy rates are 5% or less often. Yes.
So do you recommend fixing appreciation and then invest multifamily out of state for the cash flow?
I'm sorry, could you restate the first part of your question?
Do you recommend fix and flip in LA because of the appreciation factor? And invest multifamily out of state for the cash flow?
Okay, so the question for those of you who didn't hear was, do we recommend buying fix and flip here in Los Angeles for the appreciation and to buy out of state for the cash flow? Is that correct? Okay. I recommend whatever you feel comfortable with. Meaning, like, that's what a lot of people do, right? A lot of people buy fix and flips here for the appreciation. And some people buy out of state for the cash flow, but it all depends on your comfort level. That same family for that 10 unit in East Hollywood, right? This is happening a lot. And I'm actually going to do this as a presentation. I have a presentation called Managing Real Estate Assets for Aging Adults, because we're having this generational shift happening right now, right? The baby boomers are now in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. And we're getting calls from their Gen X and millennial kids, right? Who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, even 60s, saying, yeah, mom and dad have this building. They've been managing it themselves. They haven't been raising the rents. We know it's undervalued. What do you think? What can we do? And all I can say is, like, in that case, like, we talked about all the different options that they could do. They could sell it. They could pay the tax. They could sell it, reinvest in triple net out of state, buy such and such out of state. But at the end of the day, they decided to stay here and buy another multifamily because that was what they were comfortable with. They just wanted something that was not rent controlled. So that's what we got them. Right? So it always depends on your end goal and what you're comfortable with. You know, if you're comfortable investing in an area that, I think also it so much depends on the management, right? Do you have a good property manager in that area? We have clients who don't live in Los Angeles. A good chunk of our clients don't live in Los Angeles. They live all over the world, you know, but they buy in Los Angeles because they want that appreciation and it gives them enough cash flow that they're happy. Okay, but they need someone to manage it. Yes, sir.
Hey, Will, when you say to someone who, you know, like, we have started investing in multifamily ourselves, and you know, we always kind of feel like you have to see the problem, even if the property manager is right.
Yeah,
you should put boots on the ground
When you initially buy it.
when you initially buy it. Yeah, and well, and even after you own it, like, I can't go to, you know, Phoenix in you know, I guess I get on a plane.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm saying is, you know, the accessibility to the property, like, it seems to be an important thing, but, you know, a lot of, you know, new people may overlook that. Oh, I want to buy in Houston. So, you know, so
That's a good point.
I couldn't agree more. You know, I 100% agree with you. So for those of you who didn't hear, so what's your name?
Right.
What Greg said was that, you know, the nice thing about buying in Los Angeles is that you can see your property whenever you want, right? You can drive to it, you can smell it, you can see what's going on. But if it's in Houston, in the suburbs, or Galveston, or Little Rock, are you willing to get on that plane, or do you trust your eyes there to see what's going on? What's being told? These are all questions and good ones to ask, right? I am not that trustworthy a person, so meaning I don't trust a lot of people. So I personally like to have my eyes on stuff because I want to see what's going on, because I want to be quote unquote in control. That's it. That's not to say I have property manager for my Kansas properties. I don't live there anymore, right? But the majority of my properties are here so that I can keep an eye on them for the same reasons. But once again, everybody's different. I'm not going to say what's better or what's worse. And yeah, that's what I would say for all of you online as well, is like, this is not about what's better or worse, it's what's better or worse for you. What do you feel comfortable doing? That's a question you can only answer yourself. Any other questions? It's your last chance until next month.
How do you decide if you do have a good real estate broker, or, you know what I mean? I appreciate that, you know, obviously you're teaching us something, you know, there's knowledge and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, you know, you have our recognition and reputability, but like, let's say if I'm in South Carolina, Charleston, trying to purchase a property, how do I know if I have, you know, a good real estate agent, or, you know, somebody who doesn't do diligence, like you said earlier?
It's an excellent question. I think with obviously you want to interview that person, have a bunch of questions for them, see how they respond, right? And I personally think you want whoever you work with, whatever region you work with, you want to make sure that they're going to fight for you at the end of the day, right? They've got your best interests and that they're going to fight for that, you know? And so how do you do that? You do that. You can read online reviews. You can, you can ask a ton of questions. You can talk to their broker. Like there's a lot of different ways, at the end of the day, all business relationships is about trust, right? You always have to take a little bit of a leap of faith with whoever you're working with, right? So you do as much research as you can. It's like, to be honest, it's like us with tenants, right? Like every time we show a unit to a tenant, and we do all the background risk, right, Mary? We ask for everything. We do credit check, criminal check, eviction check. We ask for 2 months bank statements, 2 months pay stubs. We call all their references, landlord, make sure they actually have a job. We look at everything and then we make the decision. And even then you can make a bad decision, right? Because you don't know. You don't know, as soon as they step in that door, they're like, ooh, party, whatever it is, right? You don't know. So every relationship is there's always a sense of risk, right? But you do as much background as you can. And you take that leap of faith if you feel that this person's the right person for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anthony, do you want to wrap us up?
All right, thank you so much, Will. Let's give Will a hand. So we look forward to seeing all of you guys next month. For those of you who are online, come on in to the office next month. We'd love to see you in person. We'll also have a hybrid version, so if you're not around, feel free to log in. And don't forget to check out the Collective Realty on YouTube to find all of our past videos. And for those of you who were asking questions about 1031s, we have a couple great videos on there about that and lots of other subjects. So look forward to seeing you guys next month. Feel free to hang out and network a little bit, have a glass of wine, and Happy New Year. Yes.
Thank you.